Okay, hey everyone. I guess we are live. Before we begin, do let me know in the comments in chat if I'm audible. Still waiting. Perfect, audible. Great. So to start, hey once again, my name is Ankur, and in today's webinar, we'll be tackling a question that almost every coder and engineer has or seeks an answer to. The question is how to get into top tech bigwigs or the FAANG, which is an acronym that we have given to 5 of these most aspired for companies. Now, without further ado, let me introduce our guest for today's webinar. We have with us today Roshini, who currently works with Microsoft as software engineer too. In fact, she has been with Microsoft for over 5 years now. Meanwhile, she also completed her master's degree in CS from Georgia Institute of Technology. Roshini, hey, glad to have you here with us.
Hi, guys.
So, guys, the structure of this webinar will be that we'll have 25-30 minutes of answering your most talked about questions about how to get into these FAANG companies, what are the main questions or main doubts that you might have, and then we'll have questions from the students and try answering them. Sounds good? Okay. So, Roshini, before we do that, is there something that you would like to tell our audience, our students?
Yeah, I know these are difficult times and everybody is putting in their maximum effort to get into their dream companies. I hope this webinar gives you the confidence and also the steps for you to prepare and persistently keep trying for your dream companies.
So to begin with, we all know that these FAANG companies or the top bigwigs, Roshini, they do not usually go to every campus across India or even abroad, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how should students who study in these campuses, wherein these companies do not come for campus placements, how should they go ahead and apply to these companies off campus?
Yeah, this is in fact a question that I get asked a lot. So there are a few things that we can do. Most of these bigwig companies, like, always go on campus to college for hiring their freshers. So one thing that I suggest is always have a lookout in the career portal of these different companies and apply to open positions through that. Also connect with people on LinkedIn from these companies. You can definitely ask them for referrals. While we're at that topic, I want to touch base upon few good referral etiquettes, because most often than not I do get messages, just one line messages asking, hey, can you refer me for like any open positions that you have for software engineering. So one thing that you need to understand is these people that you connect with LinkedIn purely for referral purposes do not have ample time to go through the career website, find out good positions for you, and then refer you for all those positions. So one thing I would definitely suggest is send them a list of job openings that you find on the career portal, instead of just asking if there is an open position that you can refer them for.
Sorry to interrupt. I guess your volume is a little too feeble. Is it okay if you could just speak a bit loud?
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
I guess it should be better. Yeah. Awesome, better.
Yeah, okay. So what I was talking about is connecting with people on LinkedIn from these big companies and asking them for a referral. And while we're at that, I was just talking about some good referral etiquettes, right? One thing that I was touching base upon was do not just ask them to refer you for any open positions that they have, do go through the list of job openings that you find on Career Portal, and then send them like the links for different open positions that you find on the Career Portal. Definitely send them your resume as well. Any company will require resume for the referral process, and then send them a short paragraph on why you think you're qualified for this position. This is not just required in some companies' referral forms, but even if they are trying to refer you to their manager offline, they would definitely need like an introduction paragraph and to justify why they're referring you to this position. So, some of the things when you definitely connect to people on LinkedIn and ask them for referral, do keep all of these 3 points in mind. In addition to this, I know a lot of people that you're asking for referrals are also extremely busy. So even in the corporate world, we do this. Instead of pinging them again and again, just set up or like block their calendar for like just like 15 to 20 minutes, and then just send them all the position links, send them your resume, send them an introduction paragraph, and then in the meeting, just make sure that they refer you for all these positions. One another thing that I also tell is there are so many people in these companies. So if few people are not responding, don't be behind them. Just like send it to as many people as possible, and there'll definitely be few people who are nice enough to go and refer people. What I've seen is applying through Career Portal and asking referrals is two of the most easiest way to for people to apply off campus. Apart from that, what I would also suggest is because all of these big companies go and hire all their freshers on campus, it would be really beneficial for you to wait for a year, get like good amount of work experience, and then apply for these referrals. It shouldn't be a limitation, but this would increase your chances of getting picked. But also, what you can do is connect with different HRs from these companies. So HRs also usually post different job openings that are their managers usually keep posting open positions. So if you connect with them on LinkedIn, you will be the first person to know about these openings as well. So that's a good idea. As well as LinkedIn has this new section called job openings. So if you go to opportunity.linkedin.com/jobs, you would be able to see an array of job openings. I will try and show you guys that page as well towards the end of this questionnaire. But that is a good place to go and search for jobs as well. But apart from that, there are Google APAC coding challenges, and people or participants who get into some of their finale rounds, they usually qualify and then qualify for an interview. And then Amazon also hosts a bunch of contests on hacker ranks. So if you guys can do participate in these contests as well. But apart from that, I think our wonderful coordinators did help me with a few additional sites as well. So there's Naukri.com, there is Angelus, there's Indeed, there's Monster.com. So if you have enough time, do go to these sites as well and look in for job opportunities. So there is a lot of avenue. Hopefully you guys can make use of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roshni.
Yeah.
Now, as we know that knowledge is not the only skill that will get you into one of these FAANG companies. I mean, it's good to have coding skills, but you also need to work on your resumes as well as know a couple of tips and tricks to get them shortlisted, right? So, do you have anything to share with our audience, our students, around getting your resume shortlisted?
Sure. I have an entire presentation prepared around how your resume can be shortlisted. But before that, if you have any other questions, I can answer that, and then we can go to the presentation for the resume.
All right. So, okay. So another major query that we have these days is that most of the companies, they're hiring remotely, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of students, they're facing trouble handling telephonic rounds or interviews over Skype or Zoom or Google Meet. So
Mm-hmm.
can you please share a few do's and don'ts that would help us students tackle such scenarios?
Definitely. I do. It's not just etiquettes for having calls, but even generally, like not just for interviews, even for like normal calls that you have. I think there are a few things that you can keep in mind. So, first thing is be in a place that has good network. This is the basics. If your home does not have good network, if you can just go to your office, or if your friend's place to take an interview that has good network, that would be amazing. Also figure out what meeting platform they are using for your interview, be it Skype or Teams or Zoom or Meet. Have the app installed on your machine prior to the meeting. Don't just start installing this right before the meeting starts. Also, you would want to get on a call with one of your friend and make sure you don't have any mic issues, speaker issues, camera issues. No one wants to go on a call and be like, "Can you hear me? Can you see me?" And then that'll be a back and forth like 5 to 10 minutes chat. You can avoid all of that and have like a really smooth experience with like a good network and like testing this prior hand. Also, make sure you double check the timing of the meeting. There's nothing worse than just missing your interview. I think this is the worst nightmare everybody has. Double check which time zone they are on, check the meeting timings, and try to join the minutes, like meeting like 10 minutes before. It would just like ease the pressure off you, as opposed to like joining last minute. So definitely that is something that you want to do. Um, Most interviewers these days are also flexible with all the different coding languages. You can code in C, C++, Python, Java, whatever you want to code in. So be prepared with an IDE. In real time interviews, you would have seen that you can whiteboard these different questions. So if it's like a virtual hiring process, then they would just ask you to open an IDE that you're comfortable with, and then they'll ask you to code in that. So definitely be prepared with an IDE of your choice as well, be it Idle, Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio, whatever you want to. Also, if you're taking the call from home, just make sure you tell all your family members that you have an interview call and not to like open the door or disturb you during the interview process. Um, uh, if you're interrupted in your interview process, if someone's opening the door, just slightly tell them that you are on a call. That should be fine. Also, one thing, do not ever search Google for interview answers, just because it's like in telephone interview, people would definitely know if you're searching for answers. So do not do that, and dress appropriately. It's still an interview, even if you're attending from home. So yeah, keep those few points in mind.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I believe these pointers would really help our students tackle the situation that we are currently in and come out strong. Now, to proceed, what are the different kinds of projects that students should opt in for if they're aiming to get into one of the FAANG companies?
Right. So, one thing that I would say is, do not stress too much about what project you're taking up, as much as how you want to make sure to tell the interviewer through these projects that you have a good understanding of different technologies. This will definitely depend on the niche that you're applying for, be it data science, ML, or Android, or web applications. It depends on like what is like the niche that you're applying for. So if it is a front end project, do definitely have a portfolio ready. If you don't have an idea about what UI portfolios are, definitely Google them and figure out like what UI portfolios are. There are some really good portfolio examples online, and this would be a really amazing way to showcase whatever UI web designs that you've been doing already. Also, if there are any other projects that you have, be it backend and services, do upload all of it on GitHub. That's an easiest way to have them published. Have these links in your resume on your LinkedIn profile, so that if someone is really interested in the project section of yours, this usually happens when people have lesser work experience, so people can always go to GitHub and see if you have good coding practices, if you've been really working on all of these additional niche spaces that you're applying for. So that would be a really good idea. Highlight the unique projects that you've been working on. A lot of people copy paste projects from other GitHub repositories. So people who are interviewing you would also know if these GitHub repositories exist or not. So what I would suggest is make something that's unique about your projects. What is that that's different from what is already available? And have those GitHub projects published and have those links in your resume and LinkedIn, and that will really cut the corner. Also, a lot of people do projects for their certification as well. Do put your certifications and do put the projects that you're doing for certifications as well, and specifically mention them as certification projects, and that will be an amazing thing to do as well.
Awesome. I guess that would really help a lot of students who are, willing to know what is it, the what kind of efforts they need to put in, and what kind of projects they need to choose in order to get into the FAANG companies and modify the CVs accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another question that stumbles a lot of students. They might be good at tech, they might be good at coding, but when it comes to soft skills and questions like tell me something about yourself, or maybe why Amazon, why Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you suggest that one should tackle such questions?
Great. So, one thing that I really want to show you guys is LinkedIn has recently published an entire page full of soft skill questions and the structure and how to go about it. So, if you don't have any further questions for me, I can show that. But if there are any further questions, I can take that and I can show this page right before I start my presentation.
I guess you can go ahead with sharing your screen.
Awesome. So just give me 1 second. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. So if you can see this, guys, I think it's really an amazing place to go and have a look at all of the soft skill questions. I really like the way that they have structured how to answer these different questions. So you can see they have questions about tell me about yourself, what is your greatest strength, what is your greatest weakness, and these are questions that not just you guys, I also struggle with whenever I go for an interview. This is a pretty vague question, but to have a framework around how to answer these questions is really amazing. So, if you go for an example, just to tell me about yourself, I think they have three main points. They're like, be succinct, honest, and engaging. They're like, don't go and give a detailed account about your last 2 decades of career. Just make sure you tell them that you're qualified and you can respond to an unstructured question. And then one thing that they have is use the job description to prepare. And this is not just true for this soft skill question. This is true for all soft skill questions. Do use the job description to prepare your answers. They want to see if you have the required skill sets for that position that they're hiring you into. So This is also a great point. And then they have tie your story to their needs. Again, in line with the previous point, they are like, make sure like you go through what is the job description, and then whatever story you're trying to put across the table, just make sure that it is in line with what they're expecting out of a candidate that they want to hire. So yeah, I think this is a really great repository of resources for soft skill questions. Do go through this. While we're at it and we're sharing the screen, I think there were a few more things that I thought I'll show you guys. One is I was talking about the job opportunities on LinkedIn. So this is the link for that. You can search and apply for jobs. And then there's also a section where you can prepare for interviews and learn skills for in-demand jobs. And these are really nice resources that you want to go through and have a look at as well. And then the other thing that I think we were briefly talking about was also what are the different coding contests. So I think one such example that I was talking to about was Google's APAC challenges, but they have a bunch of other coding challenges as well. So you can go through this, and then you can see if any of these opportunities um, fit what you're looking for. So yeah, these are few resources that I thought I'll share with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Roshni. I guess this will really be useful for our students.
Mhm.
For everyone who was asking for the link to this page, it has been shared in the chat section and will be added to the comment section in the video. Yeah. So while we are at it, Roshni, would you like to take us through the various stages, that are there in a typical hiring process for one of these FAANG companies?
Sure. So most FAANG companies usually have 5 rounds of interview. The first round is usually just a screening interview. Like I think in the first 10 minutes, they go through your background, which is what is your work experience, where do you have your expertise, and then some soft skill questions, which again, do not forget, always tie it back to the job descriptions that they have so that they really feel like you are the candidate for this position. Also, in the screening round, the coding questions are relatively easy. They focus more to see on if you are the right person that they are looking for, and if you have like a bit of coding skills. The second and third interview is where you see the typical coding questions that people post online for all of these dream companies. So there is a structure on how you go about, these interviews. Do not panic, first of all, when you get a question, and if you don't understand completely what the question means, ask your doubts and get it clarified. Focus on asking the right questions before you start implementing the question. Explain your solution approach before you start solving the problem. So in case if it's like a suboptimal solution, or if they're looking for some other way to solve the solution, they would tell it to you right away, as opposed to if you go and then start solving the question right away. You would have spent like 20-25 minutes trying to solve the entire problem, and in the meantime they would have realized, or whoever is interviewing you would have realized, that this is a suboptimal approach, and they would have told it to you 20-25 minutes into the interview, and you will have less time to come up with an alternate solution. Um, so definitely explain the solution before you start implementing it. And also, even when you're solving the problem, think out loud, in case if you get stuck somewhere. Some interviewers would really help you in going through the solution if they feel that you are the right candidate. So this is how it happens in real world problems as well. You sit with a bunch of people, and if you're not able to arrive at a solution, people will be there to help you. So, and imagine an interview to be like you guys solving a project together, but just like a really, really mini version of the project. Solve quickly. I've seen that a lot of FAANG companies focus a lot on solving the question quickly. So one way you can definitely solve it quickly is by asking or making sure that the solution you are thinking of is the right one. So yeah, definitely, like once you know that it's the right solution, try and implement it as quickly as possible. Once you're done implementing it, go through the test cases that you have in mind. You should have some positive test cases, some negative test cases, some like integration test cases. And you would have also seen that what are the few stress test cases that you have, what is that will really push the system to the end. And you should list all of these test cases and then prove how your solution is really amazing for all of these different test cases. This not only says that you've gone and then seen the solution from somewhere, but it also shows that you've put in thought process behind this, and you know that your solution will stand all of these different scenarios. One last thing that I want to say is optimize your solution, be it for time or space. I think these are two constraints that they always check for. And also make sure that you tell the interviewer that you are aware of the time as well as space constraints, and tell them that you've optimized the solution for that. That is something that they'll really appreciate. So this is the second and third interview, like I was telling you guys. The fourth round of interview could be system design or database or oops. It depends on how many years of experience you have and what is the role that you're interviewing for. So fourth interview is going to be a little more particular to the role that you're applying to. And then fifth interview is what we call is as appropriate. It could either be just a HR round or it could be like a coding round. So then again, it depends on the role that you're applying for or how you've performed in the previous rounds of interview. So what I want to say is just because you have a coding round in fifth interview doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't perform well. It probably just means that the role that you're going for is more coding intensive and they want to make sure that they are shortlisting the right candidates. So yeah, fifth round could either be like a HR round or like a coding round. So usually it's five interviews that you have for these FAANG companies.
Awesome. That was a very detailed answer, Roshni. I'm sure that will help a lot of students.
Yeah.
Why don't we circle back to the question that we asked in the middle and tell our students what it is like to build a resume that's sort of perfect for these FAANG companies, and maybe if you have a sample resume that would help as well.
Awesome. So let me share my screen, and then, like I told you, I have a presentation prepared for this. Hopefully, if people can see it visually, it would be more easier to understand. Just give me a second while I bring up the screen.
Meanwhile, everyone, please keep pouring in your questions in the chat section, and we'll start taking them up after this presentation.
Yep. Let me know whenever you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Awesome. So after reviewing a lot of people's resume, and I do this on LinkedIn all the time, I've come up with like 10 points that would absolutely help anybody with their resume construction, as well as reviewing your resume once you're done constructing it. So here are a few points. First thing is length of a resume. And if at all you're constructing a resume from scratch, and if you don't take anything at all from this meeting, do take this one point. The length of a resume should always be 1 page if you have less than 5 years of work experience. If you have more than 5 years of work experience, it is justified that you have a lot more to present, and then you have to like go beyond 1 page. But if you have less than 5 years of work experience, definitely stick to a 1 page resume format. HRs are very busy, interviewers are very busy. They're going to glance your resume, and you want to provide as much information as possible in that 1 page. So yeah, the first point is length of resume. Stick to 1 page resume. Second one is resume template. A lot of people keep asking me, should I use a resume template? What are the benefits of using it? Some are paid resume templates, some are free templates. What am I supposed to use? So using a template is just something that will aid visually. So it'll highlight what's important. It's more pleasing to the eye the way it's organized, and it also uses the space on the page more efficiently so that you have as much information as possible. But then it usually has like a right section, a left section, and then you have all of the data sort of around in a template, perfectly organized. And most interviewers are used to seeing certain sections in certain places, so it would also be easier for them to go and grab what they're looking for. So a resume template is great that way. uh, you know a choice between a paid template and an unpaid template, honestly, it doesn't make much of a difference. Any template that's just visually looking good is good enough. You don't need to necessarily go and get a paid resume template, but if you have the resources, definitely go for it. The third point is the about section and hobbies. So many people still have this section in their resume. This is an
Sorry to
old
interrupt. Is it
Yeah.
okay to go full screen?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that, guys. Um, oops. This is like two screen issues. I think you're seeing my slideshow screen right now. Is that right?
Yeah, it's visible. Just let me check. No, actually, it's gone even smaller.
Just give me a second.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think I have my resume here and my slideshow on my second monitor. So I'm going to try and bring that to this monitor.
Sure. Or maybe we can just zoom in a bit. I guess the issue was just around the font size.
Sure. What I can do is I can start presenting my second screen. I think that would make things better. Let me know if you want me to start from the beginning. I can do that as well.
That's okay, I guess. We can resume from where we left.
Sure. Yep. Is it better now?
Much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. No worries. Oh my God. Okay. Hopefully. So I'm just going to go from the beginning just so that people who didn't have like, let's try and see. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to just start from the beginning so that it's more convenient for you guys to see. So I think the first thing that we started with was length of the resume. So what I was trying to tell you guys is definitely keep the resume to one page if you have less than 5 years of experience. If you have greater than 5 years of experience, then it's okay for um, your work experience, because of your work experience, for it to spill to more than one page. But definitely, if you have less than 5 years of work experience, stick to a one page resume, just because HRs don't have enough time. They have to go through a lot of resumes, and you want to make sure that you give as much information as possible in one page. um, Second thing that we were talking about is resume template. Using a resume template will highlight what's important. It's more pleasing to the eyes. Also, it uses the space on the page more efficiently. Basically, everything is organized in a neat fashion for you guys. And then you don't need to think about how do I push all of this different information that I have in one page. It probably has like a left section, a right section, and then it organizes everything beautifully for you. And most often than not, while using a template, I've found that you can fit in more information than you can traditionally. And between a paid resume template and an unpaid resume template, what I would definitely say is use something that just fits your information. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a paid template, but if you have the resources, definitely go for it. Um, Another thing that I talk about is about section and hobbies. Do not have these in your resume. This is usually the old resume format. None of the modern resumes have an about section column and an hobbies column. So what I would say is shift the entire about section to your LinkedIn bio. That is like a perfect place for your introduction. And if your hobbies are watching movies, reading books, just remove it. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your resume. Apart from this, I think I've also seen a section around gender, date of birth, location, and all of that. Remove all of it. None of this is required in the modern resume format. Also, talking about hobbies, if you really have valid hobbies, do highlight them in the achievement section with whatever achievements you've got from those hobbies. Otherwise, what I would suggest is removing out the about section and hobbies. This is not necessary at all in your modern resume format. Um, Another thing is font. Try classic fonts. Do not use some cringeworthy fonts. I've seen that too. Like nice cursive fonts and like italicized fonts. Not necessary. Stick to the basics. Stick to the classics. Calibri, Times New Roman, Cambria. These are few fonts that look absolutely stellar on resume. Note the font size as well. Make sure your entire resume follows one model as well, be it the date format or be it like the font of your company heading, or like if you have like a specific font for your designation, use the same font for all of your companies and all of your designations. And if you have dates, use the same place for like writing your dates. Do follow some of these things that will make your resume more presentable. Um, this I think should have honestly been the first slide. Do not make spelling mistakes in your resume. It's cringy. Just don't. Go to Word, proofread your resume. Grammatical errors, spelling errors, just make sure you correct them. Also have some of your really good friends proofread your resume. Sometimes when you read it, it might make absolute sense, but when your friends are reading it, they would point out some obvious mistakes. So yeah, do that. And also, some people do not give sufficient um, details about what they were working on. They're always like, I don't know if I can say enough information about this project. It's almost as if they're working on a secret project. We've all gone into corporate environments. We've all signed the NDA. but there is a fine line between what you can reveal and what you can't. Do not reveal business logic. Do not reveal like any critical information that you're not supposed to. But you can clearly explain what your contribution was to the product, what was the end result. Do not like reduce the details on the project just because you feel like you're not supposed to reveal secrets. Honestly, everybody works on like an NDA project, and like just look at other resumes and figure out what you can like reveal and what you can't. And if you're like really worried, ask your colleague if it's okay, and then like have them review and see if there's anything that you're revealing that you shouldn't. There is also a nice way to put it, which is called the STAR method, which talks about situation, task, action, and result. This would be like a nice guideline for you to describe your project. What was the situation, what was your task, what was your actions, and what was the result. That would be the most easiest way to explain it without necessarily going into the details of the business logic of the project. um, Following in line with that, every project description that you have needs to talk about what your impact was. Some people just talk about their project and leave it at that. Like, I know you worked on that project, but what was your individual contribution and what was the impact of that contribution? If you've optimized something, talk numbers. Like, was it space optimization? Was it time optimization? If it was automation and then you've reduced so many human hours, then talk numbers there as well. Nothing is more attractive than numbers on a resume. Also highlight what were the key features you were working on, and if you have those key features, talk about customer adoption. Who is working on it? Who is using it right now, and how your feature really helped these customers. So definitely talk about your contribution and your impact on that project rather than just describing what the project is. Only when you start describing what the project is when you start going into the business logic. So make sure that you talk about numbers and numbers and numbers only, and your impact. um, the next thing that I see is scores and achievements. Some people have improved over time. They have a question of, I just got like 60% or 70%, or my GPA was 5 point something or 6 point something. I'm not telling that these are things that you shouldn't like be proud of, but what I'm trying to say is just make sure you know what you're putting on the resume. The resume is supposed to have your best talents and your best features highlighted. So do you want to like remove few things just so that you give the headlights for the more important descriptions on your resume? I think that is something that you want to keep in your mind. Do you really want to put certain things that would give a first negative impression, or if you want to avoid it? And this is like a sensitive topic, so I will leave that absolutely up to you. Some people are like very proud of how they've improved over time. So if that is something that you want to highlight in your resume, or if that is something that you want to describe to your interviewer, that's okay as well. So yeah, another thing is your achievement truly an achievement? Is something that I've seen where people are like, and I was in the 50th percentile in X and Y exam, or I was in the 50th percentile in this coding contest. Does the 50th percentile actually add anything to highlight your resume, or is it something that will pull back from your participation? So if somebody sees different examinations that you've passed and different like certifications that you've passed, and they see the score beside it and the score is not good enough, or worthy enough, it might actually pull back from your certification, and people might actually focus on your score and be like, though this person has given this examination, is this score like actually showing me that they've achieved something, or is it just something that they tried and then they put it on the resume? So what I'm trying to say is, make sure you highlight the best things and leave off the things that you want to avoid, giving a negative impression. But then again, if that's something that you want to put on your resume, and this slide, I want to say, is absolutely up to you. Use your discretion on this. But this is just the general guideline. Um, Another thing that I want to talk about is links that don't work. People post their LinkedIn links, GitHub links, research publications, blogs. So anything that you have, make sure when you upload a resume, um, all of these links are working. Check that twice, check that like as many times that you want right before an interview, or right before you submit your resume for a job position. So yeah, make sure that you go through all of this. And then another thing that's very, very important is keywords. So in the modern day time, the way they shortlist resumes is by just searching for few things. So make sure you highlight your technologies, make sure you highlight the stacks that you're working on, what position that you were holding before applying for this position. So these are few things that would help the HR easily search for your resume, and getting it shortlisted would be so much more easier when you have these perfectly placed in your resume. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this presentation. Hopefully, I've shared as much as I can.
Thank you so much, Roshni. Uh,
Yeah,
I guess this presentation was as detailed as it could be, and it will be helpful for all of our students, I believe.
yeah.
That
Sorry about
they
the
get.
tiny glitches that I was having.
That's okay. That's completely okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everyone starts building up their resumes now, and starts preparing to get into the FAANG companies. As we promised, now we'll take questions from the students, and the first question that there is this question is from Sashwat. Um, his question is that if someone is working in a service-based company and has a work experience of close to 4 years, how would you suggest that the person needs to prepare to shift to a product-based company like FANGs?
Nice. So this is a question that I get often as well, and this is also in line with where do I prepare from? I have all the motivation that I need to, and I will give all the time that I have, but where do I prepare from? So few things that we were talking about is also like LinkedIn is like a great resource for training for specific positions that you don't have experience in. But apart from that, as you know, all companies ask just coding questions these days, and coding is more important than anything else to crack interviews. So I would definitely say go to cracking the coding interview. That is a book that most people swear by. So if you have all of your basics sorted, and whatever I'm telling right now is after you have your basics sorted, definitely like have your basic data structures and algorithm, be it linked list, stack, queue, hash tables, your binary search or like sorting algorithms, backtracking, graphs, maps. All of these have the basic data structures and algorithms perfectly sorted out. And after that, and only after that, go to cracking the coding interview. It's an amazing book. It touches base on all of these basic data structures and algorithms that you'll need to know. And it also is categorized by easy, medium, and hard, which also like gives a very neat transition for you. um, so once you're done with that book, and like you pretty much got your basics solid, and all the and the one thing about good about cracking the coding interview is it has questions sorted based on like the topic. It has a separate topic for stacks, and it has a separate topic for linked lists or arrays. So that is amazing. And once you're done with that, I would suggest go to leadcode.com, and then that is a place which has numerous number of questions, and it even has questions based on the company that you want to interview for. So it also has easy, moderate, and hard levels. Go to that, spend all the time that you have. It also gives a neat, a coding platform sort of vibe. So you can go there and practice all the questions that you want to. Yeah, if you're done with cracking the coding interview and lead code and you have all your basics strong, there should be no company that you can't crack. Yeah, it's just about practicing these questions.
Awesome. So, in order to summarize it, it's possible to get into a product-based companies, even one of the FAANGs, even if you are working in a service-based company. Yeah. To take a next question, this is an interesting one. It's something that you touched upon as well while sharing your presentation.
Mhm.
Saurya asks that if someone gets fewer than 60% marks in his or her undergrad or in his or her school exams, is it the end of road for them to get into one of the top product companies?
Definitely not. As time goes by, all companies are actually hiring in more unconventional ways. I think we touch based upon different coding contests that are coming up, and Google was just one example that I gave you guys. So if you had like a 60% in your school, or like you had a really bad GPA in your college, forget about really bad GPA. I know people who had backlogs in arrears in college who were still able to crack Google interviews. It's just persistence. You just need to prepare coding questions and then give it all your best right now, and that's more important. Do not let your past derail from preparing for your future. Do prepare all of your interview questions, attend all these coding contests, go and ask for referrals from different people, get like make a lot of side projects, make them available on GitHub, contribute to open source projects, do certifications. There are so many different things that can improve your profile. Forget about the past, forget about the 60%. The 60% is not a tag that's going to stick onto you forever. There are so many avenues, you just need to make use of them.
Awesome. I guess the same also applies to anyone who is not a computer science graduate. It all depends upon how you practice, the amount of efforts that you put in, and where you head out from there. The next question that we have is from Aditi. She's asking that there are a lot of students who are currently in their first year or second year or third year of engineering, and who have their eyes set on one of the top companies. Do you have any tips or do's and don'ts for them? And if you could also share a couple of important dates or months uh, wherein most of these companies they have their hiring contests or hiring internships. So
Mhm.
that would be really helpful for them.
Sure. I don't have all the dates off the top of my head, but this is something that we can update Ankur, yeah, later. Um, yeah, but a few things that you can do in your third year and fourth year is, like I've been rambling all along in this session, do prepare for coding interviews. That is the most important thing to do. What I also see most students doing in your third year and fourth year is they get super confused about whether sitting for placements or like pursuing their masters. It's something that people get very confused, and then they have divided attention. Do not do that. Like if you want to pursue your masters, definitely do your background research and see if that's something that you want to take up, and focus all your energy on that. If you want to take up like sitting for interviews and placements, focus all your energy on that, and then prepare for different internships. So third year is an amazing time around which most companies have summer internships. So your summer vacation after your third year is when these internships happen. But the interview for these internships happen at the beginning of third year itself, in your first semester of third year. Um, And this is specifically to India because I was a bachelor out of India, and I did my Microsoft internship in the summer after my third year. And also, the interviews happened in the first semester of third year. And I'm talking from my own experience. So, if I get more resources on this, and of course, the different coding challenges that I've talked about, do keep a tab on them on Google. Just search for them. All the dates are open, and in HackerRank they keep posting different contests. So what I would say is time and again, just keep checking on them. And if we have enough resources, Ankur, we will definitely post this after the session, won't we?
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, just a follow-up question on this. Rajiv is asking, is there a portal where we can get updates about the various hiring contests? If there is something on top of your head, we can have it now, or we can schedule it for later as well.
Yeah, we can schedule this for later. So one thing is just like, I mean, if you search for it, everything that I showed you right now, I think I just showed you like a portal which has like all of Google's contests. So it's not something that I like have it in secrecy that I've stored somewhere in like a OneNote or in like a notepad. It's all available. Just search for it. Google APAC challenges or HackerRank contest. Just search for it. It should be right there.
Great. We'll take just one more question. Just give me a minute. Shiva is asking that there's an option for open to job feature in LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Do you advise a second year or a third year student to keep it open?
Well, as far as you're open to jobs, I think that's something that you can put on. But usually that feature is for people who've completed their university and people who are actually have work experience and they're trying to get jobs. What you're probably looking for is internships. You can have that open, but as soon as a HR or someone lands on your profile and then they see that you're just in your second year or third year, they might skip your profile only because people with those tags, they're usually looking forward for full-time positions. But if you're looking for internships, you should apply for them offline, and that tag could help you. I'm not sure if that is the one that would definitely help you with the internship search.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roshni. I guess that brings us to the end of this webinar. Um, Before everyone leaves, a request that we'll have a link posted on the comment section for feedback, and please do leave your feedback for the session over that. And the resources that we promised, we'll put them up in the comment section as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining. It was really nice having you guys here today.
Thank you so much, Roshni. Thank you everyone for joining in. Have a safe and happy weekend.
Bye.